It has certainly been a tumultuous season for the Raptors, and even though they're starting to get healthier, the trade deadline is only about a month away, so it's time for the team to make some really tough decisions about the future of their players. Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content and videos just like this. Drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe for more, especially with the trade deadline, like I said, about a month away. There's some great content on the way on the channel that you do not want to miss out on. But how did we get here already? Even though the Raptors record is not good, we know that it hasn't been good and it hasn't been a very fun season, especially as of late, but the trade deadline is on February 6th. We're almost a month away from that point. So, like it or not, it is time for the front office to really crack down and make some big decisions about the future of the players on this team by way of trades. Which players should be traded? Which players could be traded? And which players should absolutely not be traded? We're going to cover all of that in the video today. And yeah, even with the team starting to get healthier, Emmanuel Quickley's back. And certainly that is going to make a huge difference for this team. It's kind of really too late to try and make any sort of run for the season. People still now asking me, with the players coming back, can this team make the play-in tournament? Like, sure, it's not impossible for the team to make the play-in tournament at this point, but consider the record. My goodness, like this is a loaded draft class. Like, they've been injured, sure. They've been worse than expected, even with the injuries, sure. But man, if you're going to have a bad year, this is one of the really good years to have a bad year. So at some point, certainly, the front office will recognize that. And, we've seen in the past experience over the last 5 years, not only are we an experienced tanking team here in Toronto, we are a very good tanking team. And with a high draft pick on the cards, some players absolutely need to be traded. We're going to segregate the key guys that we're going to talk about in this video into 3 different categories. We've got the players that should get traded. The Raptors absolutely should be pushing aggressively to try and make a trade with. We have the players the Raptors could trade, so maybe they're not actively shopping or aggressively pushing to make this trade, but definitely should consider the offers that come their way. And of course, the final tier will be the players the Raptors absolutely should not be trading. In fact, could we say these players are borderline untouchable? There's obviously one player in that category, but there's another player I want to put in there as well that you should stick around to the end of the video to find out who it is. But first, we'll start off with the players who absolutely should get traded and should be actively being shopped by the Toronto Raptors. Now, the problem with shopping these players at the moment is that the market has been set, and it's not been set extremely well. Dorian Finney-Smith was recently traded basically for 3 second-round picks. Dennis Schroeder didn't even go for first, got basically 2 second-round picks Brooklyn got for him. So maybe it's just Brooklyn Nets in a bit of a fire sale mode, and they're just taking what they can get. But that is not very kind to other teams in the way of setting what the market should be for some of these players. And particularly, that's going to be a problem for, well, not just Chris Boucher, who is also in this should be traded category, but also Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown was the player that came back in the Pascal Siakam trade on top of the 3 first-round picks, which, we've talked about in a video on this channel as well. But Bruce Brown was the guy that they got, that the anticipation was they would be able to flip to add on to the assets they received for Pascal Siakam. That trade didn't materialize last year. The report suggested the Raptors were being offered first-round picks for the 2024 draft, but the Raptors weren't interested in picks for the 2024 draft. They had enough. They used 4 picks in the draft, and they got some further players as undrafted free agents like Jamison Battle, who are also having a bit of an impact on the team at the moment. But they were looking for future first-round picks. They were looking for future first, specifically looking for first-round picks for 2025. But for the way the market is being set at the moment, the way first-round picks are starting to be valued by NBA teams, it's looking difficult for the Raptors to actually get a first-round pick for this season or next season out of Bruce Brown. I think at this point, if you got something reminiscent of what the Brooklyn Nets got for Dorian Finney-Smith, they got D'Angelo Russell. They got Reese Beekman in that trade. I'm not sure. Basically, the bulk of the trade was D'Angelo Russell and 3 second-round picks from the Lakers. If the Raptors were to get something along that, like an expiring contract to max salaries of Bruce Brown, along with 3 second-round picks, I think you'd have to be kind of happy with that. You take a few stabs in the second round, but any trade offer that comes in with a first-round pick for Bruce Brown, I think the Raptors pretty much, unless the 30th overall pick, I think the Raptors kind of have to look at that very strongly. For Chris Boucher, I'm kind of in a position right now where if you can get anything positive, so a second round pick for Chris Boucher, that's worth taking here. I think Chris Boucher does enough to help this team when he's on the floor, but from a long-term perspective, when he's on the floor, that's taking minutes away from a guy like Jonathan Mobo, who I think has been underutilized and underplayed lately. So for me, anything you can get out of Chris Boucher, take it, and really press hard to try and trade Bruce Brown. But those are the only two players I'm really in the aggressive trade category. The second category I spoke about was the players you could trade, the players that you need to look around and say, hey, if we get a really good offer here, we should probably take it. And honestly, this category is a lot bigger than you would expect. I think that the first player, like the face of this category for the Raptors is Jakob Poeltl. You might be surprised watching this video that I didn't put Jakob Poeltl in the should trade category, but I'm in agreement. Minor reports are suggesting that the Raptors front office believes that Jakob Poeltl is a pretty integral part of this team. I would agree. Like, the defense is already bad. It would fall off an absolute cliff if he wasn't playing. And we saw when he wasn't playing well. Last year, they had a 4-28 record when he didn't play. And this season, the brief games that he hasn't played, and the few games he hasn't played, the defense is shambolic at best. So I think even for development purposes, you want to have that solidified anchor on defense just to make it easier for other guys to do their job defensively and work on their jobs defensively. So I'm in agreement of a want and desire for his role this season. And I'm in agreement that if this team can be healthy next year and they can add on a really high first-round pick and who knows what else from the draft, if they can get more assets like we're talking about in this video here, that's definitely a team that can make a run for the playoffs. And if you're going to do that, you need a rim-protecting center like Jakob Poeltl. But given the situation of the team, given Jakob Poeltl's contract, I would certainly say, don't make the phone calls, but take them. If people want to ask around about Jakob Poeltl, see what's out there. Play the offers off each other. And if you get a really good offer that you can't really turn down, absolutely, that's something that you've got to look at. More so closer to the should trade category is Kelly Olynyk. We're kind of lost in terms of what role for him to play. Like, the Raptors wanted to play as a backup center. It's extraordinarily clear that he is not good enough defensively to be the backup center. He has to be a power forward, especially at this age. You know, I like the vet presence. I like the fact he's Canadian. I like that he's a solid player on offense, but he cannot be your backup rim protector. If teams think like, hey, that could be like the bottom end of our rotation guy to help solidify our depth for the season, like maybe they do look at Kelly Olynyk. Maybe not as much the fact that he's not on an expiring contract, but Kelly Olynyk's definitely in the could trade category, closer to the should trade category. And other than that, in this category, it's pretty much everybody on this team except for, I'd say, two players at this point. Like, anybody else, honestly, like RJ Barret, Emmanuel Quickley in particular. Look, I'm not making the phone calls here. Absolutely not. I'm not looking for a trade. I'm not trying to trade them in any way whatsoever, but man, like, you would definitely have to consider some offers if they come the way of these players. From a practical sense, there's only really one untouchable player on this team. We know who that is. We'll talk about it later. But I think there's one other player creeping up into that category as well. But RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley are on pretty large contracts. They are great players. I really like having them on this team. But again, if an offer comes in that you have to take that is just a better value than the package you're sending out, whether or not that does include RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, you got to look at it. You got to look at it pretty strongly. Ultimately, I don't think that offer is going to come. And ultimately, I really like having the players in this team. So I'm completely fine just keeping them. But hey, you cannot rule out trading these guys. And I'm sure the front office hasn't. We've seen in the past how cutthroat they can be with some trades. But the final category here is basically the untouchable category, the guys that you are not going to be trading. Scotty Barnes is obviously the player that I reference as the untouchable player in this category. The Raptors are building around him. Now, you might be watching, there's quite a few people entering the camp that Barnes can't be the guy you build around, but a young player who, when he has actual point guard play there, he's not playing point guard himself, and he has floor spacing around him. My God, the Raptors have done so little. They had Siakam for so many years as their focal guy and did nothing to make his life easier as a scorer by adding in more point guard play, by adding in more shooting around the team. please, Masai Ujiri, do not make this mistake again. And once Barnes has that, I think that he is going to really shine even further already than what was an all-star last season. I think he's going to shine even further. I agree, building around him, but you need to do it correctly. And one of the players that will really fit nicely around him and is emerging fantastically this season is Grady Dick. Like, from a practical sense, I'd say that this is a pretty untouchable player on the second year of his rookie contract, so a cheap contract, already scoring at this level for the team and already providing this level of IQ and this level of floor spacing. That is an absolute gem to have on your roster. I'm not suggesting Grady Dick's going to be like a star player for this team going forward, but 100% a guy that can be locked into your starting five for years and years and years to come. Great fit next to Scottie Barnes. That is the type of player they need more of on this roster. Do not trade away Grady Dick. Like, they'd have to look. From a practical sense, to me, they're not going to get traded. How many untouchable players are there really in the NBA? Like Giannis, Luka, Jokic, SGA, maybe just those four that there's no offer you could send that they would actually say yes to. Look, if you offered me Luka for Scottie, unfortunately, I love Scottie. You'd probably have to take that. You know what I mean? But from a practical sense, these are the guys that I'm keeping if I am the Toronto Raptors. But anybody else, hey, if the right offer comes in, fair game for Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher. It maybe doesn't even need to be the right offer for me to say yes. But what do you make of the video? What do you make of the topics I covered and the players that I lumped into each category? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that's it for today's video. Drop a like if you did enjoy. Make sure you subscribe to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content just like this, and help us back on the road to 18,000 subscribers. We hit 18,000 subs at the end of 2024. Then the channel got hacked. Then people unsubscribed because they saw the hack channel, didn't understand it was my channel, Amateur Sports. But hey, we're on the road back there. You help us get there. Let's make 2025 a great year for the channel and for the brand. And I'll see you again next time for another video.